essentially do my complete breakdown. I'm going to just ad lib what he was saying, and let's just get right into it because I know your time is precious, time is valuable, and you can't get that back. And this is a red alert. This is a code red because anti blackness is very pervasive. It never stopped being pervasive, but most of us got to get our head out of the sand and stop trying to act like it doesn't exist. With that being said, I'm going to get right into the video, a breakdown of the bro, Amazing Lucas, and him addressing anti-Asian hate, allegedly, which is just a disguise for anti-black.
Oh my goodness. So Dr. Claude Anderson has been warning us about this precise moment in time.
So before we proceed with that, I just want to say, let me go ahead and fly this banner. Fair use is a legal doctrine that allows the use of limited portions of copyrighted material under certain circumstances without getting permission from the copyright owner or paying any license fees. Shout out Amazing Lucas. You bet not copyright strike me. But yeah, shout out Amazing Lucas. Go over to his page, subscribe to his channel. He does gaming. He talks about politics. He talks about dating. Really solid brother. Produces great content. So once again, shout out to the bro, Amazing Lucas, and fair use, nigga. But like he was saying, Dr. Claude Anderson has warned us about this decades ago, not days ago, but decades ago, that, hey, look, we need to get our stuff together. We need to unite because we can't fight all of these groups. You know what I mean? It's one thing for us to have to go up against white supremacy, but when you're going up against a anti-black conglomerate, you're getting hit from every side from all groups. And these other groups will unite to supplant you, to usurp you, to ultimately dominate you. You know, this whole kumbaya stuff, we are the only ones that's on that. Much to our chagrin, right? You don't hear them asking people of the J community, hey, is black people invited to the cookout or the bar mitzvah. You don't hear them asking Asian people, Hispanic people, hey, are blacks invited to the cookout? But they will be asking blacks, are these other non-black people invited to the cookout? And all somebody got to do is a Dougie, have some fried chicken, hot sauce, watermelon, listen to trap music. And then people say, hey, yeah, they could come to the cookout. So we really are the moral compass of the country. I know a lot of people say, no, what about black on black crime? Well, what about it? You know what I mean? That is happening in a centralized area. Most of these is literally like 2% of the population that is committing all of the crime, but have the media tell you it's like 98% every black person is like a drill rapper from Chicago, excuse me, that'll do a drive-by on you. But if everyone wants to assume and perceive that blacks are just some violent savages, okay, cool. That's your right to perceive that. But what if blacks start perceiving everyone else to be the anti-black bigots that most people actually are? Now, there's very overt and blatant um, forms of the anti-black bigotry, and then there's very subtle, slick ways too. And some people think, hey, I never called anyone a nigger with the hard ER. So they believe, hey, if I never done that, then I'm not an anti-black acolyte or bigot. But if you have that line of thinking, you would be wrong, my friend. But let's continue with the video.
And that is the moment where black Americans have become a super minority. All right? He says, hey, if this country didn't care about you and your concerns and grievances and demands and requests when you are a minority, they sure as heck aren't going to care about you when you become a super minority. You will now be considered, okay, the dregs of society, as Hillary Clinton so famously quoted, all right?
Yeah, the dregs of society and super predators. And the irony of it and the sadness and madness of it is that our ancestors built this country, and actual foreigners are coming here not because they are just working harder than us. And not to say that some don't work hard, but there are plenty of Black Americans that work hard, that were born here, that are denied opportunities just so this label could have legs, right? The dregs of society, just so we can keep up with this fallacy. But how could you say someone who comes from an ancestry that built this country forcibly ground up, and those people are lazy? Not the people that were saying, hey, I don't want to build anything. I just want to get free labor and whip people into building something. Those people are not lazy, but the people who actually physically were laying the foundation brick by brick are lazy. Doesn't even make sense. So what are we talking about here? So we got to stop with this goofy stuff when it comes to the anti-black rhetoric. But let's continue. And it looks like a couple people stepped in the building. Go ahead and announce yourself and hit the like on the way in. So we got Wally. Since my boy Wally is for the streets, I knew he would see the stream. Shout out to Wally, one of the dopest individuals on the YouTube streets. And we got the lovely Jill's Chocolate Boutique. So shout out to Sexual Chocolate. I'm just joking. Shout out to Jill. I want Jill. What kind of chocolate are you? Are you the dark chocolate, or that milk chocolate? I'm just wondering. So she says she wants to stop by and show support. I appreciate the support. I appreciate y'all. We gonna need all the support we can get because we are facing a anti-black onslaught. And the only way that we can either repel and rebel against it is by us coming together. We gotta unify. But let me continue.
That's what now us, will be considered in this country because you don't produce anything, you're consumers, and you don't own anything. So now they will see you as simply riffraff in this country, in a country that our ancestors built. We will now be treated as, forget second class citizens, all right, we will be considered as outcasts. And this precise notion is better represented in a recent debacle that's been going on about anti-Asian hate, okay, about hate speech regarding black people. Now, I have to preface this with I do not condone anyone messing with children. I don't condone that. I think that their lights should be turned off. The reason why I have to preface this, because the individual who made this statement has a very, very problematic history. And I have to put this out there, or you're going to have someone say, well, why didn't you mention this, Lucas? Why didn't you tell everyone who this is? Now, here's the thing. Having said that, that does not detract from the validity of this person's statement.
So where have we seen and heard this before? So basically, attack the source. You try to discredit the person to make any argument or any statement that they make invalid. Look, Luke has already said it. He doesn't support anyone that has a criminal record of molesting or doing anything nefarious or kinky with children. No one is supporting that. However, if there is a criminal and you don't agree with the criminal act, his criminal act is antithetical to what you believe in. But if that criminal says, you know what, 2 + 2 is 4, am I going to say, hey, you're a criminal? 2 + 2 is not 4, it's 5. No, just because he's a criminal doesn't mean that suddenly 2 + 2 is not 4. And the grand point of that analogy is saying, hey, look, you don't have to like this person to acknowledge what they are saying is true. And that's kind of why Lucas gave this disclaimer, because that's sometimes what we do quite often. When someone will make a statement of fact, we'll look for an ad hominem attack to say, hey, look, we have to discredit this person because look at their history. But if we want to point out someone else's history, criminal history or otherwise, then we also need to be pointing out or at least examining the people that's making the accusation, right? Because you have a right to face your accuser. You can accuse me of something and I can admit to it or deny it. But am I the only one subject to random accusations? If you're going to accuse somebody of something, we need to unpack the person that's accusing. Because if I go and say, hey, Wally is a drug dealer, he might be. But if I'm a drug dealer as well, then it's just the pot calling the kettle black. So we need to be more vigilant and mindful of just accepting ad hominem attacks without actually, you know, evaluating the person that's making the attack. But let's commence.
Okay, do I think this person their light should be turned off? 100%. I don't disagree with you there. Having said that, there is a video that's going on circulating Twitter, in which you have this man talking about, he says, hey, listen, he's referencing a bill that's going on that may possibly be passed in New York in regards where the tenants, the landlords, will not be able to do background searches on tenants. And that is due to the housing crisis that's going on, that many people are homeless, and that despite, many of these people, turn their lives around, that due to the fact that they have a criminal record, that they're overlooked for housing. Just to give you some context, this man goes on and says that, hey, this isn't about, crime or anything, this is about race. And that he lives in Rego Park, and that it's filled with Asians, and it's the most racist place that he's ever been. That they will constantly follow you around in the shops to suggest that you may steal something, and the fact that they don't want you to have black communities. They don't want you to have black neighborhoods. And furthermore, that the Asians there, they're not from New York. They're from China. They're from Hong Kong.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Look, just because someone points out their experience doesn't mean that you're anti anything, right? Because there's plenty of Asians saying, hey, I was robbed by a black person, but we don't call them anti-black, even though most of them do hold a grudge and have anti-black sentiments because they were robbed. But what about all of the black people who were treated like crap by the nail salon specialists, or, had money thrown at them, etc.? And we still are going and spending um, with their businesses. We shouldn't be, but we are. We actually do forgive and forget. However, he's not exaggerating saying, hey, he goes in a place and then they're looking at him, following him. I've personally had that experience. Am I anti-Asian because I'm speaking on the experience that I actually had? And it's true. They don't want black neighborhoods. So what is anti-Asian about that? If they do want a black neighborhood, they don't want the black neighborhood nearby them. So they want a black neighborhood that they can extract resources from. They want a black neighborhood that they can set up their shops at, but they just don't want to live in that neighborhood. And if they live in that neighborhood, they don't want it to be a black neighborhood. They want it to be little Chinatown or little Japantown or little Koreatown, which makes it not a black neighborhood. So where was the lie? The dude is saying that, hey, these Asians don't want a black neighborhood. And they don't. I know plenty of Asians that only want to rent to Asians or other white people because a lot of Asians identify themselves as white. Where is the lie about this? This stuff could easily be looked up. And if you have any Asian friends and they will be honest with you, they will tell you this stuff. You think I'm lying? Go to an Asian wedding and tell me where you see the black people. Go to an Asian church. Tell me where you see the black people. Go to an Asian nail salon. Black women know how to do nails as well. But would they get hired in an Asian nail salon? So, like, what are we talking about here? So they don't want to sell to blacks, you know what I mean? In terms of, I'm talking about wholesale, the prices. And look, I understand it's group economics. I'm not saying that they should sell and give black people the same deal that they would give a fellow Asian person. But then there's a lot of discrimination amongst Asians. So we should be speaking to Asians about the anti-Asian hate, because the darker Asians don't get treated the same. Filipinos, Cambodians, people that are from Thailand, they don't get treated with the same privileges as a Chinese, Korean, or Japanese person. No one has to take my word for it. Just look it up. There's countless of videos on YouTube talking about the colorism. There's countless of videos of other Asian groups saying that, hey, they get subjugated, ostracized by the other Asian groups. So if Asians are very discriminatory towards other Asians, how do you think they're going to be towards blacks? See, when blacks are doing something to a person who happens to be Asian, they didn't seek to do that harm or commit that crime or atrocity because they were Asian. And if Asians want to be treated equal, then what the hell are y'all complaining about? If you're in the hood and someone is jacking and robbing black people, you think that they're going to jack and rob black people, see an Asian person and say, hey, I can't rob you because you're Asian and I don't want to be accused of Asian hate. If someone is willing to rob someone that looks like them, then they're going to rob an Asian person, a white person, a Hispanic person. Equal opportunity. That's what equality looks like. Now, it can be toxic equality, but it is equality. So once again, if I am in a deranged mindset, willing to jack a black person, why the hell wouldn't I jack an Asian person and a person of any ethnic group? Because it's about survival. It's about economic gain. Most of those crimes are due to prolonged exposure to poverty, and they're trying to have some sort of economic gain, right? If I jack you for your chain, most times people are not trying to just keep the chain and wear it. They don't want to get caught up with it. They want to jack the chain and sell it. That's economics. Now, some people are saying, "Oh, we'll get a job." Well, the federal minimum wage is 7.25. So the same people complaining and saying, "Go get a job," you know, and then when someone gets a job and the jobs don't pay a living wage, people turn to more nefarious things to pay the bills. And I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but it is reality. And we got to accept that and speak on it. But let's commence.
This is not about felonies. It's about race. It's about black people. It should.
That is right. It's definitely not about felonies or race, because there was an Asian cop that had killed a unarmed black man. And you know what? The Asians rallied around him and they were saying justice for him. I think his name was Peter Liang or something like that. Um, Hold on, let me check just to make sure. But yeah, anyways, this guy had killed a black person. His name was Akai Gurley. He killed him. And what were the Asians doing? Riding for him. They weren't worried about crime then, because that crime, murder, was committed against a black person. But if they are said, hey, you guys have the kung flu, you know, which Donald Trump said that, a white guy, not a black dude. If someone says that, then all of a sudden we should feel sorry for them and grab the Kleenex because, oh my God, they're being attacked. We can get called nigger all day, and it's like, shut up, nigger, you're just supposed to take it. But if someone says, hey, you may have the kung flu, that's on the same level as being called a nigger? Like, what are we talking about here? We got to stop with the conflating. It's getting overly goofy. But shout out to the bro M3 in the building. Says salute B-Eazy, that dude, and says good evening, Wally in jail. So M3 always over here showing the support. I appreciate you. And make sure that you go and sub to Knowledge and Relationships. I do a segment over there with my bro, Big Rick Slaps, and I'm always over there representing for the squad on Knowledge and Relationships, where you get intriguing, interesting, and intellectual content, you know. And if I'm over there, I'm gonna crack some jokes, so you're gonna get a balance of humor, honesty, and humbleness. So go subscribe to Knowledge and Relationships, hit the notification bell, and enjoy the content. You will not be disappointed. And he says, anytime, brother. That's what I'm talking about, man, because M3 is up to us, man. Our generation is pretty much done. What we are doing is laying the groundwork for the next generations to rise and be able to stand up against this subjugation. Too many of our elders have sold us out. Too many of us have adopted a individualistic, capitalistic mindset. And, in a capitalistic mindset, everyone is trying to get the bag, get ahead, get ahead. And you are not necessarily focused on networking to build something for the collective. You are networking to build something for self gain. And if that's what you're about, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be about that. It's just that's not what I'm about. I realize that a one man army will soon perish if he goes against a very organized, well planned, well strategized army. You can bench press 400 pounds, you can have 500 guns. You ain't going to be able to shoot them all at the same time. So there is strength in numbers, strength in unity. So that's what I'm about. That's what I'm promoting. And Wally says salute. But let's commence, see what the brother has to say.
Some Asian people that I just was talking, I live in Rico Park now. That is the racistest neighborhood I ever been in. And there's nothing but Asians in there. If you go in the store, they will follow you around like you getting ready to steal something.
And that's why the appropriate term is anti blackness. Yes, white supremacy is very pervasive, but it's kind of like anti blackness is like the granddaddy, right? You feel me? Um, White supremacist is the father, and anti blackness is the grandfather because it's global and all groups participate in it, even black people. So what this dude is saying is the most racist area he's ever been in is predominantly Asian. So people say white supremacy, white supremacy, white supremacy. Once again, don't take my word for it. Most of those Asians identify as white. Yes, they know they are Asian ethnically, but when it comes to the census, for various reasons, they identify as white. So when people only fixate on white supremacy, it kind of lets these other groups that are heavily anti black off the hook. So that is a mistake that we have to stop making, because some of the biggest lawsuits, especially in California, some of the biggest racial discrimination lawsuits are Hispanics discriminating against blacks. And many Hispanics identify as white. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. 59% of American Hispanics identify as white. They have an option. Some of them have black ancestry, but look, I'm not saying that they should check box, but if you have black ancestry, it would make sense. You're saying that you're a person of color, but when it comes to check the box, you check white. They do have a box that says other. You don't have to check the box of white, but you do it for the benefits, right? You do it for the privileges. And look, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but you shouldn't also be cowardly and not really admit the reason that you are doing it, because they want blacks to be truthful, honest. We want to hold them accountable. You got Sambo, the Sergeant Sambo Van Jones apologizing for blacks, on behalf, apologizing to J community on behalf of blacks, but where are these other groups apologizing to black people? Don't worry, I'll wait. But let's see what else he has to say.
So that garbage that they was talking up here, 'cause that's what it was garbage. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't want black people to live in black people neighborhood. Because it's not their neighborhood. Because they from China, Hong Kong. We from New York.
Now, people are coming out and saying, this is racist. This is racist. This is anti-Asian hate. That's what this is. Now, given his comments, I don't know how you can somehow perversely interpret a man complaining about actually anti-black racism and then translate that into anti-Asian racism, into anti-Asian hate. And this just goes to show you of how little we are viewed in today's society. Because he's clearly talking about black neighborhoods that have been infiltrated by individuals who do not like black people, who treat black people less than they treat everyone else. They manage to victim blame and to vilify black people. And now the conversation is about black people and anti-Asian hate. I mean, that whole debacle that we recently overcame, right? When they're constantly showing clips of black people, targeting Asian individuals.
And I'm going to go ahead and just leave that right there because people love to throw out the FBI. What about black on black crime? Black on black crime. We're just killing each other, right? Y'all love to say that goofy stuff. But according to FBI, hate crime statistics, black people, not Asian people, not white people, not Hispanic people, black people are victims of hate crimes more than any other group. So let me get this right. Even when they got that anti-Asian hate crime bill, guess who was the leading victims of hate crime? It wasn't Asian people, it was black people. So the same year that they passed a anti-Asian hate bill, why wasn't it called an anti-Asian and black hate bill? Right? Because your race is your team. I didn't want it to be like that. This is the social construct of the country that we live in. So it's like you either got to get with the program or get lost. You see, they want to say people of color, right? People of color, minorities, marginalized groups. But when it's time for tangibles and resources, this wasn't a people of color hate bill. This wasn't a minority hate bill. This wasn't a marginalized group hate bill. It was an anti-Asian hate bill, even though black people have been the victims of hate at astronomical numbers, way more than Asians have been. And they even admitted that they faced 2 years of people saying, oh, it's the China virus, the Kung flu. So somehow saying someone has the Kung flu, calling something the China virus and saying go back to your country, somehow that's the same as being called a nigger and being lynched economically, physically, spiritually. What? Get the fuck out of here. But let's commence.
Nevertheless,
and those was receipts. Hold on, let me go back slightly. And I'm going to read that. 48.5% victims of crimes motivated by offenders' anti-black or African American bias. 48.5%. But hold on. It says 4.4% were the victims of anti-Asian hate bias. So our hate, according to these numbers, are 44% higher than Asians. However, they got an anti-Asian hate bill. What? So imagine if you're at the hospital, right? I got burnt in the fire. 4.4% of my body is burnt by the fire. You got burnt by the fire. 48% of your body is burnt by the fire. And the doctor says, oh, look, it's an emergency. Let's treat the person that has 4.4% of their body burnt. Meanwhile, you're looking at someone with damn near 50% of his body burnt and scarred, but you're not focused on that person, right? Oh, let's look at this. Anti-black or African American hate crimes. 2,871. Where's the Asian at? Where they didn't even crack the list of being, you know what I mean? It's not a competition, right? It's really not. But y'all are making this a competition. You know what I mean? When it comes to the black on black crime, y'all make it a competition to say, oh, well, blacks do the most this and blacks do the most drive-bys and blacks do the most this. But when it comes to when we're being victimized, you don't want to say that blacks are the most victimized. You want to say, get over yourself. And look at the irony, right? They're telling blacks to stop complaining, stop with the victim mentality. Meanwhile, you have a bunch of Asians saying how much they are victims. Everyone wants to be a victim, but black people are not allowed to be victims. We are the ones actually being victimized, but you just can't say it. Meanwhile, every group is saying, don't say you're a victim. And then as soon as you say, all right, cool, I'm not going to say I'm a victim, then they turn around and say, we're victims. We're victims. We need money. We need money from the government. I thought that was socialism. Yeah, it's only socialism when it's helping the blacks, but when you passing out millions to every other group, it's not socialism, right? It's just American patriotism. But M3 says, I need my anti-hate bill against them because their racism is just as bad as the whites. I agree, it's just as bad and sometimes is worse because a lot of them are trying to assimilate and prove that, anti-blackness is as American as apple pie. So a lot of them are getting on code with, the American cultural standard by practicing and promoting, perpetuating insane levels of anti-blackness. And M3 says it's the go along to get along gang. Yeah, the go along to get along gang is basically people like Van Jones. You know what I mean? Jeff Bezos gave Van Jones 100 million. He would never give someone like Tariq Nasheed, Jason Black, Professor Black Truth, um, Claude Anderson. He would never give any of those. Even Boyce Watkins, he would never give any of those people 100 million. The reason why he gave Van Jones 100 million because he's a crying Negro. He's getting on there apologizing for the black community, even though he has nothing to do with the black community. So he's just a figurehead, just a puppeteer so that they can hide behind their anti-blackness. Look, we propped up Van Jones. We didn't say it. We got a black man to say it. So we can't be racist because Van Jones said it. Or should I say Stan Jones, because that's what he is. He's a stand for white supremacy and anti-blackness. So F Van Jones and anyone that's of that Sambo-esque nature. But let's commence. But y'all see the stats, you feel me? Don't take my word for it. Go look up the stats. Y'all say numbers don't lie. These are the hate crimes. You don't even see. I mean, where are the Asians? Where's all of this hate towards Asians coming from? It's all overblown by the media. Are some things happening to them? Yes, but not as pervasive, not as brutal, not as barbarous are the things that are happening to black people. And if they don't care that our numbers are double or tripled, then why should I care if someone, you know, calls them, the Kung Flu Master? Why should I care? Do Asians really care that once Elon Musk took over Twitter, the N word, nigger with the hard ER, that went up 500%? Do you hear anyone speaking about that? No, they don't care. And that's fine, right? Fine if they don't care. They don't have to care. Just like I don't have to care about them whining and lying about excessive amounts of anti-Asian hate, which is BS. But let's commence. Oh, hold on. There are the Asians. So it's sorted by category. You see that anti-black or African is damn near 3,000. But when you see the Asians, 270? Huh? That's not even close. That's not even close. What are we talking about here? But let's commence.
Nevertheless, I did my due diligence. I looked into the data, right? Simple as that. Looked into the census, and sure enough, when you look into it, in Regal Park, 80% of the Asians in there in Regal Park are foreign born. This is what the census says. I looked into it. It was hard to come across, but I did some digging and I found out. Now, out of
That's pretty wild. Almost 85% of the Asians in this particular area is foreign born. Now, if you say that, then you're against immigrants and anti-Asian hate. No, it's not even about that. Those black people in that area, the predominant number of them were born there. They were born there. Those foreign immigrants are giving massive handouts, welfare, and these same people that have a problem with welfare and blacks are the welfare kings and queens. It's more white people that's receiving the benefits of welfare than anyone. And you know who else? Immigrants. I can't even apply for welfare and get it. But you know who can? These immigrants. A lot of them come over, could barely speak English. They come with their cultures intact. They don't plan on speaking English. Okay, that's fine. You don't want to learn how to speak English. But damn, you don't speak English. So how could they pass any of these literacy tests to get the green cards, right? Were they just green lit because of the money? Fair questions to ask, right? How are they always getting these low interest loans, Don't look it up. Don't take my word for it. Look it up and you see that they have a better chance of getting it than American born blacks. But you're not supposed to say any of this stuff because it's anti Asian, right? And they want to live by each other. They don't come here to say, hey, we're moving to America to integrate with the greatest nation ever. They're coming here to segregate, they're coming here to supplant us, put their culture in and say, look, our culture is intact, right? We speak our language. We have little Chinatown. We have little Koreatown. And they don't want blacks in that circumference. And if they do, you have to be in a subservient position so that they can treat you anyway, so that they can talk to you anyway. This is not me making this stuff up. This is just not based on my feelings. Countless of documents, countless of videos that list to this. And if there's any of my Asian friends listening, you already know how this is. If you're an Asian woman, could you bring a black guy home and not face any type of backlash? If you are an Asian nail salon, could you hire a black woman? So if you know the answer is no, why are we acting like this stuff is not real? When I mean, if Asians have all of these businesses, right, in the hood, what type of outreach are they doing? What type of community building are they doing? All they're doing is currency collecting. They want to collect the check and then complain, oh, the blacks are so violent. Okay, if they're so violent, then why don't you just go back to your country? Oh, you know, that's wrong to say, but no, seriously. They are saying a lot of these people are saying blacks are violent, and then you look at their country. Have you seen what's going on in China? Have you seen what's going on there? A brutal dictatorship, but somehow your problem is a black dude walking down the street who doesn't own anything, but because he's sagging his pants and he might steal a bag of Doritos, that's your biggest issue. Do you notice how a bunch of Chinese people come over here and they never talk about the horrible things that are going on in China, right? You can't detach Chinese people from Chinese culture. So when they come over here and they see some violence in the street, they say, oh, it's just black culture. But then when I see how blacks are being treated in China and how Chinese people are treating their own people, isn't that just Chinese culture? So is your culture to be selfish? Is your culture to be brutal? I'm just saying. No one wants to have these conversations because you can't say it because, oh, it's anti Asian. But you saying that blacks are prone to criminality or, they need affirmative action. That's that you can just say that, right? And mind you, that Asians are whining about affirmative action. Affirmative action was never even for Asians. It wasn't. It was for black people and black people specifically. And you know who benefited more from it? White people, white women specifically. Are Asians whining to white people? No, they're blaming blacks and saying, we can't get into the school because of blacks. You wouldn't have been able to get into this country if it wasn't for blacks. But, you know, are they grateful? No. And that's fine. You're not grateful. But just don't expect for us to be caping for, for immigration, especially illegal immigration. Don't expect for us to be caping for gentrification. People are not just going to take that and just be so peaceful with it. Look at the people in Taiwan, right? Are the people in Taiwan, are they protesting? Are they fighting for their territory and their rights? Or are they just laying down? So if you support the people in Taiwan, why wouldn't you support Black Americans who built the country? Just saying, man. This anti-black goofiness and bigotry has got to stop. And I'm calling out my Asian people because I know you can say, oh, well, I'm not like that. Well, actually, you are like that because you're not speaking on it. See, when it's black issues, good or bad, we speak on them. How many Pookie and Ray Ray arguments have you heard? Not every black person is a Pookie and Ray Ray, but you hear those arguments countless. Black on black crime. We're not unified. We have to do this. We have to do that. Okay. Yeah, maybe we do. But what about these other groups? What do they have to do? They never speak on what they have to do. They never say, you know what, we really do need to stop this anti-blackness. You know what? Maybe instead of gentrifying the town, we can try to lease this building or something, any type of solution. And if you don't want to come with solutions, look, if we can't all be equally comfortable, then we'll all be equally uncomfortable. That's the thing. You're not going to be able to just continue to exploit our resources, extract our resources, and nothing happens. There's no consequences. When you do something wrong to a J person, an Asian person, or any other ethnic group, there's consequences. There's reprimand. That's the same thing going forward with the blacks. Now, we've had too many of ours sell each other out. We ain't just about to let that go down like that. Most of these Sambos, you feel me? Shout out to Jason Black because he said you gotta watch out for these old niggas. You feel me? You gotta watch out for them. You feel me? Many of them have sold us out. You feel me? Just so they can get their social security or whatever butter, biscuits, and crumbs that they can. This generation, we ain't going for that, bruh. No. And look, we don't need everybody. We really don't need everybody. I always love to use the reference of the 300. You feel me? The 300, the mighty Spartans, was going against the likes of an army the world has never seen at that time, the Persian army. And they was kicking butt and taking names. And you know how they lost? Because someone within their inner circle sold them out. If we don't sell each other out, we can do a lot of damage in a good way. We can do some destructive damage, but our destructive damage will be constructive. You feel me? Because what we doing is destroying the negative stereotypes. We destroying the negative energy. But what we're also doing is replacing it with constructive energy, with empowering energy. And that's what we just gonna keep doing going forward. And look, you don't need to be on the team. You don't need to be on the journey, but just get the F out the way when we building. That's all we ask. You know what I mean? Because it's like you either fuck with us or fuck off. You feel me? You either roll with us or you get enrolled on. This is not a threat. This is a fact. Let's commence.
The 80% who are foreign born in Regal Park, over 90% are from Eastern Asia. Now,
almost 100% is from Eastern Asian. So, once again, I was talking to you about the colorism in the Asian community. Don't take my word for it. Just go have a couple conversations. You see, when they are constantly talking about Asians, especially in the affirmative action conversation, they're mainly talking about Eastern Asians who happen happen to have the complexion for the protection. They just coincidentally are the lighter Asians, but that's just a coincidence, right?
I don't know how well your geography is, but guess where China is located? Okay? So what he was saying was 100% factual. Furthermore, when you go into it, I believe over 60%, okay, they don't even speak English in their homes. All right? So I want you, I just want you to get a perspective of what is happening. Because I want you to understand gentrification is very much real. So when it comes to black neighborhoods, you have to understand not only is there an attack on black neighborhoods, but there's an infiltration of black neighborhoods by other groups. And because there's a lack of unity in this generation, my hope, to be honest with you, is in the future generation, the next generation. I think they're going to be the ones. Right now, this generation lacks unity. They lack any type of group economics. It's game over for this generation. Next generation, I'm rooting for them. As of right now, we are being exploited. So it is what it is. But what this man said is 100% factual. And as we can see, even in LA, even in California, we can see gentrification taking place. And it's being taken place by people who are hostile to black Americans. So I find it quite telling how the narrative gets flipped just like that. It gets flipped just like that. And now the people, you have representatives, black representatives, okay, who are now cowering, who are now bending the knee, who are now bolstering or at least empathizing with this anti-Asian narrative that they're trying to put out there. I thought this story was extremely interesting, extremely misleading, and extremely perverse how they try to blame black people for hate crimes or whatever narrative they're trying to spin as far as some tension that black people have towards Asian. In fact, it's literally the opposite. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you got.
All right, shout out to the bro, amazing Lucas. And yeah, I mean, I'll just finish it up from there. Like he was saying, 60%, 60% of the Asian people that the gentleman was arguing about, that he said was the most racist, 60% of them don't even speak English in their home. They don't plan on learning English or anything like that. And that's okay, right? You want to speak your own language. You came here and have your cultural values intact. But what that does show you is that a lot of people's cultural values include anti-blackness. It's global. You know what I mean? It's not just here. And some people say, oh, well, it's not as bad as it used to be. I don't want diet anti-blackness or low calorie anti-blackness. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, it's not as bad. You know what I mean? Imagine if someone was, sexually assaulted, right? And it's like, well, this person, it happened to them 20 times, and it only happened to you 4 times. You'll be like, what? 4 times is a lot. You know what I mean? So one time is too many. So any amount of anti-blackness is too much, especially when the sentiment is not reciprocated. It's really not. You know, black people is constantly buying, much to my chagrin, food from Asian people, hair, nails, all of this other stuff, and no one, it's like no one is bringing that into the argument. They just want to say, hey, look, this fringe event happened, so we need to paint all black people as violent and against Asians. But okay, cool, let's keep that same energy when we see all of the racist rhetoric and behavior towards blacks. Could we ascribe that to all Asians? So don't try to have it both ways. Don't try to say, because you got robbed by a black person, that's just how black people is. But don't expect me to say, since I've had several encounters with racist Asians, that's just how Asians are. I can pull up countless videos of the racism back in the home countries, whether it be China or Korea or whatever. Why are these people acting like it doesn't exist? Show me a prominent Asian figure ever denouncing anti blackness. Don't worry, I'll wait. You can find countless black people saying, I denounce anti Semitism. I denounce anti Asian hate. You can find that from black people, but you can't find even one Asian person denouncing anti blackness. You see what I'm saying? So we have no friends. We have no allies. And some people get caught up because, oh man, my baby mama is Asian, or, I smashed this Asian chick, and they think that interracial sexual access equals that they care about the betterment or empowerment of your group entirely. When you're dealing with racism and racist, that pertains to a group. Every group is for themselves. Every ethnic group is your team. Now, if you want to try to leave your team and go try to join another team, you have the right and the liberty to do so, but you will never be accepted. You'll never be accepted, right? You'll just be seen as a puppet and a pawn used to bolster and buffer up someone else's team. I wish it wasn't like this, but that's how it is. There's a racial hierarchy, and unfortunately blacks are not at the top. Every other group is saying, look, we'll bend the knee to whites being at the top of the racial hierarchy, but as long as we're above the blacks, then we're good. Black people are the only ones who fight white supremacy. Black people are the only ones who are facing like countless amounts of anti-blackness. Yes, other groups face hate, but they all have a infrastructure to combat the hate. For instance, the Anti-Defamation League, who acts like they are against hate, but they don't talk about how the Ethiopian Jews were forcibly sterilized, which are the black Jews, how they were forcibly sterilized by citizens, or let's just say the power brokers of Israel. Why is no one talking about that? That's the truest form of anti-Semitism. You know what I mean? And it's just a big it's just a whole lot of hypocrisy. But I think I said enough on this matter. I didn't want to make it too long, but yeah, the anti-Asian hate claims is really nothing more than anti-blackness at this point. And I hope that y'all don't fall for it. But shout out to Sim Sima. He says, salutes, keep your feet on them foolery necks. Oh yeah, this is just the start of it, because they are not letting up with the anti-blackness, and we can't let up with rebutting that foolishness with a counter narrative. And the narrative is not just any spin or agenda. The counter narrative is the actual truth. See, if someone tells a lie long enough, and if they say it eloquent enough, you'll start believing it as the truth. We can't allow that to happen. We won't allow that to happen. And look, we're up against every group going against us, including the Sambos within our group. So anti-blackness is just very global, and it is the norm, but it's the norm that I'm unwilling to accept. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and close this one out. Thank you for stopping by. Anyone that stopped by, it looks like Jill, Wally, M3, Sima. Anybody else that stopped by, if you watch this on the replay, leave a comment in the chat. Thumbs up, a thumbs down, a fire emoji, anything, just let me know that you rocking with it, or if you're not rocking with it. If you thought that I said something wrong or misguided, let me know in the chat. But this is just a installment that dude discusses, and I got a lot more things to discuss, ranging from some health news, political things, financial things. So we're gonna keep it rocking, we're gonna keep it interesting for y'all, and I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. Thank y'all for participating in this stream, and see you on the next one. Peace.